Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of WhiskZ Talks. And today we have someone that is probably very much over me sending him messages on Facebook because I'm always asking you questions. What the hell do I pair my beer with? Or should I say the whiskey, because I know fuck all about beer. Mr. Boilermaker himself, thanks for joining us, John.
Cheers for that. Good to see you, man.
So, what are you first drinking? What's your current drinks at the moment that you're really enjoying, or what are you drinking tonight?
Well, tonight I'm I'm giving myself an excuse to go through all my samples and pick out one that I've been hanging to try for a while. So I'm going to be doing a Glenbergie Aston Morris release, which is a Corona rum finish. That's a rum cask finish whiskey, 10-year-old. And I'll be doing that with one that I've featured earlier in one of my episodes, Why is the Rum Gone, from Two Brothers. It's a coconut rum porter.
No, a coconut rum porter. Okay. I'm going the Starward, what do we got? The charred red wine, so the whiskey list one, or whiskey club.
Whiskey Club.
And then I'm going to try Mismatch Brewing Co., the chocolate stout. So we'll see if those two go together. Now, I know nothing about Boilermakers. So I'm going to ask you kind of where you got your knowledge from, or obviously just drinking, but what was it that really got you into enjoying Boilermakers?
Well, it all pretty much started off with one night I put on a barbecue for a friend of mine at my place, and he come over with a handful of beers and he goes, let's pair this back with some whiskeys. And I've just gone, what? This is something different. So, but I was all open for it. I thought, you know what, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? We're either going to have, either way, we're getting our hands on a lot of booze to drink on the night with a barbecue, so what could go wrong? But that turned out to be one of the biggest turnaround points for my drinking experience, because we had, what do we had? We had, it was a coconut porter, surprise, surprise. We had an IPA, and there was another beer as well that we had. Could have been a stout, and we paired it back with like 6 or 7 different whiskeys, and thought, what on earth? Like, what a journey that was! And that just set the tone for me to start trialing out different beers and different whiskeys. So, and it just kicked off from there, really.
And how long ago was that? When did it all start? How long ago? Years ago, or months ago, days ago?
Yeah, probably, you know what? It was in my early days of joining up with the Whiskey Club, because I reckon that probably would have been closer to late 2018 that started happening. Yeah.
Okay.
So because I joined the Whiskey Club back in 2000, about mid 2018 was when I joined up.
Okay, cool. So you would have got some of the really good stuff that, I seem to be only getting, and I've only just joined the Whiskey Club. So
Yeah.
What is a Boilermaker then? For people that don't know, or people that might know about it, what is it? What are the rules, I guess, for it?
Okay, well, the cool thing is that there's no major rules about it, because it's as experimental as you want to really. Yeah, as much as you want to experiment is what the Boilermaker journey is all about. So it is essentially beer and whiskey. But it doesn't boil down to just like beer and whiskey on its own. It could be beers with spirits of any sort. Like you can pair back rums with a beer. You can pair back gins with something as well. Like it's a spirit-based drink and a beer, and it's something that it just creates that third element from that you wouldn't usually get in drinking beer on its own, or your spirit on its own. Yeah. So that's essentially what the Boilermaker is. Now, some can argue that a Boilermaker is a shot of whiskey that you drop into your beer, scull that down. I want to enjoy both those drinks. Yeah. Ideally separately, not together. Like
that's fireball stuff when you're over in LA, in Vegas or whatever, and you're dropping your beer and scull it and you go out and party. That's how I know Boilermakers. So yeah.
That's it. But whereas me, I mean, you don't want to be doing that with some half decent whiskey that you just want to complement a beer with. So that's why I tend to, and as I explained in the videos, I'll wash it down, either with a beer or a whiskey first, and then I'll rinse it off with the other. and just compare the two and see which one works well.
So for you, it doesn't really matter if the beer or the whiskey comes first. There's no set fast rule with that. It's kind of like try it both sides and see how they alter for each other.
Exactly, because you're going to get different tastes, and you will get different tastes from trying it in different ways.
Yeah.
So you could get sorry.
No, you're all right. Go.
I was going to say, like, you could get like a whiskey, for example. Like, you could put the whiskey down first, and then that'll coat your palate with everything, and then you may go over it with a beer, which may be something like a porter or a stout, and that may cut some certain elements of the whiskey, but then bring forward onto the palate other stuff. And then you go into doing the beer first, and like that'll just sit the main flavor on your palate, and then the whiskey will just enhance it, perhaps, or depending on what kind of pairing that you've got, it can go either way. So it's fun to find out which way it's going to go, really.
Well, I did this probably 5 months ago. I ended up getting, I think I got 12 different beers, and I had about 12 different beers or something like that, 9 different beers I think it was. But anyways, I went from everything from a standard Guinness all the way to Cushy Kush or something like that. All the craft beer stuff. And the best one I only found one that I really enjoyed, which was the twofold and the Cushy Kush or whatever it was, it's yellow beer can kind of thing. And it was all just about the experimenting and finding out. Also, at the end of it, I actually drank all 9 beers and I had a couple of whiskeys per beer. So I didn't really end up knowing what the hell at the end, if it was a good match or not, but it was good fun for the night. But it's all very much still very experiment for me. And a lot of people recognize, or I've seen a lot of posts about people saying that they're talking that most Boilermakers generally come out during winter. Is that generally when you do it, or you don't really care?
I don't really care. Like, if I'm doing a Boilermaker in the summer, then I'll look to summer beers and see if I can change it up with a lighter whiskey. So like I'll probably pair up something like a real fruity IPA back with something like a Highland whiskey, or even Lowlands. So I'll do Boilermakers all year round. But in winter I tend to steer towards the more porters and stouts, the more heavier beers. So it's been the Boilermaker choice.
Big question then. Have you actually been to Boilermaker in Melbourne?
Yeah, I have actually. My first whiskey tasting event was at Boilermaker House.
Okay.
And that was a Lefroy tasting event. And then 2 days later, I was back there again, infamously in a kilt for the Bladnoch 10-year-old cast strength release through the Whiskey Club.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I've heard. I didn't realize that was it. I've heard about the kilt thing. So what is your heritage that, or are you just like me? You don't give a shit, and you like to get out and get dressed up?
Yeah, you know what? A bit of column A, bit of column B. Actually, no, I'll lie. It's not column A, because column A is my wife's heritage is actually Scottish. I'm Macedonian. So, but no, I'm very family orientated. So, and I love my traditions, and I fell in love with the whole kilt gig at our wedding. And like when I saw the father-in-law rock up and the brothers rocked up in their kilts, I'm like, that's awesome. Like I'd happily support that with them. At any family functions or whatever. And the cogs started turning as well. I'm just like, and I could also wear that to whiskey tasting events.
That's funny.
So jumped onto a kilt maker, and she made sure that I had it ready for that particular Bladnoch tasting event. And she goes, you cannot go to the event without wearing that kilt. So I'm like, all right, what's going on? And it did.
There's one big question then I think everyone's going to be asking while you're watching this.
There we go.
Did you wear jocks?
I wore it traditionally.
Did you? That is the way. Good man. So my background is we're Scottish and Irish, McCarty. You know how bloody not Scottish is that. So I haven't got into the kilt thing though, but I can tell you that I generally just don't wear pants. So lucky if I'm wearing them right now. Who knows? So talking about Bladnoch, that's actually kind of how I discovered you, is that we both share a huge love for Bladnoch whiskey. How was your kind of discovery into Bladnoch, and what's the story behind it for you? I know you've got a lot more than what I do, Like, what's your story behind that?
Well, I was fortunate to jump on board with Bladnock when the Whisky Club brought out the 10-year-old cask strength release, and I was all for supporting because finding out that it was a Scottish first, Australian owned, Scottish distillery, thought beautiful, that's one way to put the Aussie flag on the map, especially over there. And they come out with this particular whiskey. And Bladnock were running a competition separately to Whisky Club, but obviously promoting it through Whisky Club. And it turned out that I won a bottle of the Bladnock 10-year-old. So as well as my double-up order, I walked out of there with a third bottle, which I won in a competition. So I'm just like, wins all round. And but the support that's followed with everyone from the Bladnock team has just been absolutely amazing. And so, get along with everyone, from Rachel Brown to David Woodco, and it's been an amazing ride watching them, pull out the whiskies that they have since they've reopened again, and every whiskey that I've drunk from theirs has been an absolute cracker of a whiskey.
You can swear on my channel, man. It doesn't matter. You can say it if you need to. One of the things that you and I both know Will now. We've both done interviews with him, and obviously Rachel has done a lot and things like that with all the tasting stuff and obviously the back end stuff. I'm only new to whiskey. I'm definitely only new to Bladnock in the last probably less than a year. Those guys are absolutely fucking amazing in the sense that they bend over backwards for their customer service, wanting to let us know when things are happening, trying to get us involved in certain things. And you kind of feel, and I'm a fanboy, everyone knows that. It's kind of, I feel like part of a little something or other with Bladnock. And even though I'm a nobody really, because there's guys that spend a hell of a lot more money than what I have, on what they've got, probably not with my single casks. I hope my partner's not watching. There's people that are more important than us, but they don't make us feel less important than someone that's, spending tons of money. They actually really make everybody feel, part of the Bladnock family, which is awesome. So
100%. And that, that's just typical of the Aussie way, really, because you get that with most local distilleries as well. Like in Tasmania, I'm a massive, I'm very massive on support local, always have been, and especially with up and coming distilleries popping up in Australia, I'm just like, yep, sweet, I want to be there for your first release, and I hope you push your brand. Like let's get Aussie whiskey on the map, and I was there alongside Hobart Whiskey when they came out with their first release, and I've been collecting every one of their bottles since. And after spending a couple of rough nights in the Bond store, made for some fun times, fun experiences. But it's, once again, I've got that similar relationship as well with John Jarvis and his wife, Rachel, and Ben the distiller as well. And it's good. Like, you feel like you're part of something. Yeah. And that's one thing that also resonated with me with Bladnock as well. They've got that Australian feel where it's just like, welcome to the family. Here, have a drink. And what's not to love about it? You can't not fall in love with it.
That's it. So what is your current Bladnock collection? What have we got? If you can try and name them all off.
Whoa, they're all up there. They're all hiding behind the Glen Turrets and the Ben Nevises. But behind there, you'll see the 10-year-old, the 10-year-old cask strength, the 11-year-old, 17-year-old, the 25, 26, and 27 Talia, the Boilermaker exclusive, and the single cast, which I just come out with, single cast number 3. And what else? I think that is it. I'm yet to get my hands on some Bladnock indie bottlings, which I would love to get my hands on some, but all in good time.
Yeah,
all in good time. I'm yet to accommodate this whole back section here for my whiskey display. So, like, my wife can display her miniature bottles properly, and I can display all my stuff because I've still got stuff tucked down there, somewhere on the side there. It's all over the place. But we have just moved house, and that's my excuse from sticking to it.
I'll have to get Sarah on for another interview, literally just on mini bottles and her kind of collection and her obsession with minis as compared to like the big ones. So talking about obviously then the Australian stuff. What is, and I don't want to talk about favourites, but it's like talking about a favourite events maybe in Australia, not favourite brands, but maybe favourite events that you've been to. You guys went down to Tasmanian Whiskey Week, I know.
Yeah. And that was amazing.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And I was gutted to find out that it wasn't happening this year. But yeah, actually, I will be posting up the photos that I should have posted up last year, but didn't get the chance to. Kind of like in memory of Tassie Whiskey Week 2019. But like the experiences that we had, like it was a chocolate, like we had an event on minimum every day, if not 2 events per day. Yeah. So we went from Monday through to Saturday morning, and we were literally from the morning event onto the plane back home to Melbourne. And I was gutted because I really wanted to stick around for Saturday night, because that was a spirit showcase, and that was a massive event where you got to talk to all the distillers. Everyone was there. So that was, one of the events to go to.
So you've been down just the once?
Been down there twice. I was there 3 months prior. Yeah, 3 months prior to do a Foundations of Distilling course. So that was basically an introduction to, if you want to start off a distillery, these are the things that you need to factor in. And it was good because I got to talk to Patrick Maguire from Sullivan's Cove, got to pick his brain a bit on the ins and outs of running a distillery, what to expect, and went to see Sullivan's Cove. Then we moved on to actually it was a brewery first, Sullivan's Cove. The following day we went to Hobart Distillery, and that was 2 nights after a massive bender over there. So that was interesting. It was almost PTSD, as John likes to refer to it as. That's all right. It's all good. That was still fun. But that I spent about 3 days there doing that course and just doing a bit of sightseeing whilst I was there as well.
Yeah, cool. So I was supposed to be down there this August. I planned it. I do a trip every August around the world somewhere, and obviously we can't travel overseas. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Tasmania, do the World Whiskey, Tasmanian Whiskey Week, and obviously it's not going to happen. So I need to get onto the packs to make sure that I get the Tasmanian Whiskey Week pack. So at least I'll have some kind of connection for the day. So what kind of got you into whiskey? Or did you? Were you like Whiskey Pete, where you were 15 or 16 years of age, riding your bike down to the pub, and you already had a beard and you're able to buy and you opened up with a Lafroig 10, or what's your journey into whiskey? That's how.
It wasn't as adventurous as Pete's story, that's for sure. I don't think anyone can beat Pete's story, or Dan Woolley's stories getting into whiskey. But I think we've all got that. I suppose that experience growing up where the parents do want to have a laugh and introduce you to alcohol at a younger age, just to see how little bodies can cope with it when they know they shouldn't. But my dad worked at Carlton and United Breweries for about 29 years as a taxation clerk. So I got introduced to beer at a very young age. Then the whiskey really didn't kick off until a little bit later. So probably late teens. I think the first strain that we had was a Talisker 10, if I'm not mistaken. And that was my first single malt that made me just go, hey, what's going on here? Wow. This is actually nice. So from there, I then slowly started exploring, going into, like, you go into your regular blends and whatever else, your Johnny Walkers and, Jack Daniels and, trying out all your different whiskies. And then I finally knuckled down on single malts. And I joined the whiskey club solely to get into single malt whiskey and to expand on my palate. So, and that was a real cool introduction to that. And being a member since, probably a member of quite a few clubs now, which is a bit of a concern, but anyway, it is what it is. Recently signed up with Scotch Malt Whiskey Societies, so I'm just looking at it going, another one.
Well,
but anyway,
at least you have a partner that enjoys whiskey as well, so it's not as bad, unlike when I have to slip bottles in and put them behind other ones to be like, always there, I swear.
And the difference I've got there is if I don't tell my wife about a bottle, she'll think I'm hiding it from her, so then that way I don't drink it with her, and then she gets offended because Sarah drinks whiskey with me. So yeah, it's I can't get away with it purely based on the fact like, and what do you think you're going without me trying to sample of that?
I am lucky. My partner does like it, but she more likes the old fashions. She likes the cocktails and that kind of stuff. So we're going to start getting into more of that very soon. I just ordered some pure Scott as well today. So we'll start making.
That's a real good one. Real good one for cocktails.
Yeah, make some cocktails with her. So we all have obviously the starting journey into whiskey. Is there anything that you've kind of gone? So the two ways to look at this one. Main one, I want to know, what's the most embarrassing thing you've done with whiskey? And two, what's the most amazing thing that you kind of sit back and, you know, you sit there and just go, because either whiskey could have been involved, you could have been drinking whiskey, you could have been in a distillery, it could have been a bottle you got, something that you kind of sit back and you just kind of smile. It makes you just really happy about everything about
it. Yeah. Well, I think the most embarrassing thing with whiskey was probably on that Blood Knock event when all the formalities were over and everything else, and then it was just all right. Everyone's finished their drams. David Pryor had taken off by the end of the night, and it was just like, sweet, stick around for drinks. So people were naturally getting a little bit loose. And whilst I was in conversation, and I remember it vividly, it was with Rachel, and I think it's her sister and their friends at the table, and talking with her in the middle of conversation, I vividly remember a hand trickling up the back of my leg. And I'm like, I'm waiting for it any second now. And before I knew it, I'm just going, yep, this bastard's just grabbed me ass cheek. And I'm like, he had to check if I was wearing it traditionally or not, because he was a Scotsman. And he's just like, I've turned around, I've just gone, are you right? And he's gone, I had to check, but I'm proud of you.
And that would be me doing that to you. I'm that guy, unfortunately. I hate to admit it, but I am that guy that would easily do that.
Yeah, well, there was like, I got asked by many that night, so are you wearing them properly? And I'm just like, yes, I am doing it traditionally. And but then there was one person that had to physically check. So that kind of made me blush under the wrong circumstances. And the more positive experience with whiskey is, well, I more look at it like an honor that I had with working alongside Dan Woolley on his first peated run of Highwayman, which is what I learnt in the distilling course through Mark Nicholson. So I spent a long weekend up at Byron Bay just as the COVID started settling in. So I literally snuck back into Melbourne just in time before it all blew out. And we basically learnt with these spirits. So we got to unpack the heavily peated barley, and we got it into like the mash tun, and he showed us basically, and we've done everything by hand as well. So that was like, you really had a feel for it. Like, yep, this is your baby. This, you're going to learn, through and through how they do it traditionally. And then like the next day we learned the distilling run. So, and we got to taste a run that he had prepared 2 weeks prior, like after the ferment and everything else. So we got to taste his first run of heavily peated new make. And if that is a sign of things to come, oh my goodness, 2 years minimum cannot come quick enough for that whiskey. So yeah, it was just it was an honor. It really was.
I've got some stuff that not many other people have got at the moment. So
yeah, of course you would.
He sent some extra. He's got about 4 samples there down. I've only had the chance to sit on 2 of them. So, and let's just say, my God, what an interesting guy to start off with. He's obviously done so much involved with whiskey in his life. And I agree. Like, if I was you, if that was in my whiskey journey, and sitting with him and spending 3 days or a long weekend with him and going through the mash and going through the journey of that with him would be fucking awesome. You're not going to get many people or many distilleries. You're not going to be able to go to Johnny Walker and they're going to go, hey, yeah, come on and, put some pants on and let's get, into it and things like that. You're not going to go over to Japan and go to Suntory or Kieran and things like that, they're going to let you straight in and do some work or anything like that. But, that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And he's been like that whiskey inspiration for me anyway. He set the tone for me when I rocked up to the first whiskey tasting event. And if there's ever anybody on this planet that can introduce you to Lafroig as a whiskey, because it's quite easy to be put off by that, and I almost was. Like, I went out on a bender one night, and then one of my workmates said, "Here, try some of this," and it was Lafroig 10. And after just drinking, lager all night or draft all night, and then he rips out Lafroig. It's like, what the hell is that, man? I'll take that back. And then the Lafroig tasting night come up, and I'm just going, all right, Sarah, we're going to do this together. And I remember Dan was like, all right, so who hasn't tried Lafroig here tonight? And we were the only two that haven't. And he's zoned in on us, and he's just like, I really want to get your opinion on all of these drinks tonight. And just the way that he talked us through everything, it couldn't have been done any better. Like, he was like the perfect representation of what a brand ambassador could do for you, for any whiskey enthusiast, really. So, and since then, we've become really top mates. And if I want to pick his brain over anything, I've got that luxury that I can message him or call him at any given time, and he's there to help. And he's like that with anybody he talks to. He's not shy on sharing his knowledge. Like, it's there to be enjoyed by all and experienced by all.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a good guy, and obviously someone that I feel is really open, honest, and informative, and helpful when you do need it. So, he obviously sold out his first 5 run very quickly. He did it very smart. He released one at a time, and they were sold in like 10, 15 minutes, only 40 bottles or 60 bottles or whatever it was each one. And hopefully this next release from 6 to 10 or something like that, there's a lot more with them. And then from further, there's even more after that. So that's really cool. So what's your dream whiskey? What is something that you may have even had it before? What's something that if you had unlimited money, unlimited access, anything, what would it be?
I made a gentleman's pact with Shane Batchelor, and we've both said to each other that if either of us win Tats Lighter, we're going to buy each other a bottle of it, as well as a bottle for ourselves, and that's a Black Knock 29-year-old. Now, unfortunately, he's tried it.
Sorry?
I haven't. He's tried the 29-year-old Bicentennial.
Oh, yes, Shane. Yes, I know. I saw that.
Thanks,
Yes.
gosh.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had mad whiskey envy watching that episode. I'm just like, damn you. And but like that's the cool thing with the Boilermaker House. It's like the baby brother of that kind of whiskey. Like, you're almost there, drinking the 29-year-old. But I think that's more. That's probably got a bit more of a personal feel for us, to actually have that kind of whiskey, because one, the backing that I've got with Bladnock, and that's their top shelf whiskey. So, which is out of reach for quite a few of us, unless you got $8,800 to spend. Yeah, so that'd be my dream.
So my partner and I, we've actually set up a bank account, and it is called Bicentennial Whiskey.
That's awesome.
We are making it. It's on my bucket list of a bottle to buy. We are going to make it a thing. We're about a quarter of the way doing it, which means I haven't got the 26. I haven't got the 27, because obviously, the main focus at the moment is the big stuff goes into that, because the 26 and the 27 is like 1/5 or something like that of the price of the bottle. So if I don't sacrifice that, so we are making it. It is still a very long reach away. The problem is I have this rule. You buy 2 bottles of everything, drink one, keep one.
You can't really do that with that unless you got 17K to lose.
And I honestly don't see the value in that. What I will do is somehow find somewhere there's a sample, go buy it, or go to the bar and then taste it from there and keep it up there for my, because my collection is samples for myself, but it's also for a collection for my son. he can decide what he wants to do with it. I think it's 26, 28 or whatever it is when I pass away. Hopefully we've got some some very special stuff in there. But yeah, the bicentennial would be, I don't know. I'd feel like I'd get too drunk one night and I'd just crack it open and just start drinking it down. That would be so thing. So mine is the Yamazaki 1983 sherry cask. One, it's my birth year, but two, it is the most amazing whiskey I've ever had in my life. And I had it probably 10, 12 years ago before I even enjoyed whiskey when I was in Japan. But again, it's nearly the same money as what the bicentennial is, at $6,500 kind of thing. So it's always good to know. So coming to casks then, if you could find, and you were distilling whiskey yourself, if you could find a cask, what would be the cask you would love to try yourself?
Whoa, that's, I'd probably, I would try something with the Mizunara cask, to be honest.
Yeah.
And once again, I blame Whiskey Club because, when they come, when I had my introduction, or like my welcome pack or whatever, one of the add-ins was the Glendalough 13-year-old Mizunara cask. That was my introduction to Mizunara oak, on a whiskey. So, and I haven't looked back since. So it really has that distinct character that just makes you go, hey, this is something.
So for anyone watching this and doesn't know what that is, that's a Japanese oak. It's not an American oak it's a very different, and it's a very hard wood. It's one of the hardest woods that they make barrels out of. Now, Chivas Regal has done we'll put it in brackets.
Yeah.
I think it's been there for 6 months, then moved on. They talk about how the effect actually doesn't start until about 10 years of it sitting in the actual barrels. Might be a bit different in Australia because of obviously the way our climate is, but it's about 10 years just because of how hard it is. But it's also the fact they're one of the hardest casks to keep together because they break the most as well. So they actually lose more whiskey out of those casks than any other cask in the world. I did a heap of research on this before because I'm very interested in them as well. I've only ever had two before. I had the Chivas Regal, which is nice, but it's also not real. And I can't remember what else I had. It was some Yamazaki that I had when I was over in Japan. It was Misery cask, and it was like a 20-something-else-year-old, 22, but it was actually at the distillery. It was not a release. And it was...
That's where I want to experience Japanese whiskey, because I haven't had a major dabble with Japanese whiskey, in all honesty. Like I went to I think Alexander Cigar Merchants had a whiskey cigar pairing dinner with Tom Scott from Suntory. He come out, and that was probably as much as the Japanese whiskey as I've experienced.
Okay.
So that had Hakushu and Yamazaki Distillers Edition, Chita, Toki, and Habiki Harmony.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't really dabbled a great deal into it. So, but I think, and that's mainly because my sole focus has been on Aussie whiskey. And I think at the moment, you either concentrate on one or the other. I don't have the pocket to concentrate on both. No chance.
That's the hard thing, because obviously Japanese whiskey, I've got up above here, you can't see it, I've got all the expensive stuff that I used to pay, $50 for, $100 for, and now it's $1,000, $2,000, or $400 for a Yamazaki 12-year-old and all that kind of stuff. So when I started this journey, I was trying to make the decision. So that's pretty much Scotch with a Japanese label. That's all Japanese stuff. But then this is all pretty much Australian. So I've decided that, Starward is the one I'm trying to catch up on, and because it's easy, accessible, and I really enjoy it. I like that wine cask. And then Bladnoch is the Scottish one. And then I've kind of given up on the Japanese stuff, because if you look at it, the amount of money that you have to spend to get certain bottles, it's just beyond. It is really enjoyable. But like I've already said this many times before, I was buying Yamazaki 12-year-old. I was bringing it back from Japan when I was working over there. I was bringing it, and this is before I was into drinking it straight. I was mixing it with Coke, and me and my mates were smashing hot water in a night and not even caring about it, because I was going back to Japan in 3 months and I would buy another 3 or 4 bottles of it. And
there you go.
none of us cared. Like I was 24, 25. No one gave a shit about single malts and drink straight and all that kind of stuff. But you're right, and that's kind of been my focus as well. I've been moving over to the Australian stuff. I think I've got straight bat here, which is you've got as well.
Straight bat, nice.
Have you opened yours up?
Oh yeah. I've been sharing it with whoever, and I'm just going, well, controversial fluid here because he was one of the lucky ones that got away with that, getting his hands on that liquid. So
that's why
I've been happy to share that around.
That's why I've kept mine closed. I'm going to try and buy another bottle before he runs out. I think he's got about 60 bottles left, so hasn't got that left to go. But that's interesting.
I was lucky to score number 3. So that's as good as I'm going to get to a first bottle release. But because I know him and I think his dad have got 1 and 2, so I snagged number 3, and I got, I think, 238 to enjoy and actually know what was in the bottle. Because I share this similar collecting habit as you do. Yep. I want to drink and want to collect. Yep. So I tend to go for 2 of whatever. But so there are some, like I've got single casks there from Tasmania. Sorry to cut you off. I've got some single casks there recently that I picked up, and I'm like, you know what? There's no point trying to collect these. I've spent good coin. Not many people are going to get the chance to try these single cask releases. So I've been sending out samples.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been fun. But and the more that you get used to drinking, whiskey, like you get into that giving spirit and just like, try something different. Like try something that you probably won't try anytime soon. If you've got it there to share, why not?
Yeah.
So
whiskey's for drinking, or whiskey's for doing whatever you want to do with it, but it is more enjoyable when you're actually sharing it. So we've both been really busy with our lives. We've been trying to tee this up for about 2 weeks. I've been busy with work. You've been busy with whiskey tastings every single night. How do you get involved in every single one every night? How do you what ones are they? Are they all Australian stuff? Are they local things? Obviously with COVID, they're all being sent to you at the moment. And you're in Melbourne, so you're locked down. What's kind of what are some of the better ones? And if for other people that want to get involved in those ones, who should they be following?
Well, look, the big 3 in Melbourne to follow would be Whiskey and Ailment, Elysian, and Casa Divino. They do tastings every Thursday night, like as far as whiskey tastings. And Jose does a lot of old and rare tastings, or like just real, like he's got old bottlings that you're never going to pick. Like we've got Yankovski coming up. One of the bottles that he's got there is the 1978 bottling. From a rare, like from an old pub over in Germany, I think it is. And they do their own indie bottlings and everything else. So he gets his hands on some pretty rare, cool shit. And he's more than happy to...
Hang on a second. Who was that?
Casa Divino. So if you look up Casa Divino, every Thursday night he tends to do a whiskey tasting.
Yep, done.
And so that's pretty much my Thursday night booked out most nights, and I've got a Yankovski night coming up tomorrow night, and then the following night is a old and rare tasting. Like we've got a 1980 Port Ellen that we're doing next week. Like what the? Like he gets his hands on some cool shit. Whiskey and Ailment are awesome. I think they come in on a Tuesday night sometimes, or a Saturday. Actually, they're either Tuesday or Wednesday or a Saturday night, and Elysian alternate in between as well. But they get Elysian do quite a few indie bottlings, which Tuesday night gone past was Infrequent Flyers. That was a pretty cool tasting. And Whiskey and Ailment do like a lot more of the mainstream, like showing off the core range of most Scotch distilleries. But and occasionally they'll pull out the odd indie bottling as well. But that's what keeps me so bloody busy, because I do my best to support them all.
not a bad reason to be busy every night. So last 2 questions before we wrap up. What is the most special bottle you've got in your whiskey collection right now for you?
Ooh, okay. I won't say most expensive bottle, but I will say the most special and prized possession I've got at the moment is Connemara Bog Oak. So what that is It's an Irish whiskey. It's peated. So Connemara, it's the only Irish peated whiskey that you'll find, unless it's an indie bottling. And they took, I think, the fluid from Turfmoor, I think it's called, which is one of their bottlings. Matured it in a bourbon cask, and I think they took out the end caps and replaced it with bog oak, and finished it off in that, and that's what created Connemara bog oak. Now, I think that was a 5-year maturation period all up, 4 years ex-bourbon, 1 year with the bog oak end caps. And the flavour profile that you get out of that is unlike any peated whiskey, let alone any Irish whiskey that you're ever going to taste in your life. And I take great pride in knowing that I killed the bottle at Whiskey and Element, and I was on the bottle search for it since. And I was able to score one through Scotch Whiskey Auctions earlier this year. So
Nice.
that's my unicorn Irish whiskey there.
It's always nice to have a bottle like that sitting in your collection. So last one for the night is, how do people follow you? Because you do YouTube reviews now as well. You've just started that? Tell us about that. How do they follow you? And make sure, if you are watching this, make sure you hit that subscribe. I will have in this corner, I can't remember which corner it is. In this corner, I'll have his link.
One of these corners.
Yeah, one of these corners, so you'll be able to go straight to one of his videos and give him a like and subscribe as well. So what's your channel and what do you actually do?
So look up Whiskey and Sound. That's my YouTube channel, and that is my Instagram page to follow as well. I'll be uploading a lot more Boilermaker content and just a whole heap of other stuff on the Instagram very shortly. So yeah, between Instagram and YouTube, Whiskey and Sound, that's me.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me and not taking a whiskey tasting night tonight to book this in. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much.